Chapter 64. Blasphemy. Leviticus 24, 10-16. And the son of an Israelitish woman, whose father was an Egyptian, went out among the children of Israel, and this son of the Israelitish woman and a man of Israel strove together in the camp. And the Israelitish woman's son blasphemed the name of the Lord, and cursed. And they brought him unto Moses, and his mother's name was Shelomith, the daughter of Dibri, of the tribe of Dan. And they put him in wards, that the mind of the Lord might be showed them. And the Lord spake unto Moses, saying, Bring forth him that hath cursed without the camp, and let all that heard him lay their hands upon his head, and let all the congregation stone him. And thou shalt speak unto the children of Israel, saying, Whosoever curseth his God shall bear his sin, and he that blasphemeth the name of the Lord, he shall surely be put to death. And all the congregation shall certainly stone him, as well as the stranger, as he that is born in the land, when he blasphemeth the name of the Lord, shall he be put to death. Leviticus 24, 10-16. This is a very popular text with the ungodly, who regularly cite it as an example of the primitivism of the Bible. An odd charge from smug members of the world's most bloody century. The question at stake is authority. Blasphemy is forbidden in Exodus 22:28. Thou shalt not revile or blaspheme the gods or judges, nor curse the ruler of thy people. There is no penalty stated in Exodus, and perhaps this meant that the penalty was determined by the situation and case. In this instance, the man was held in custody so that the mind of the Lord might be showed them. Verse 12. J.R. Porter held that the case was further complicated by the fact that the man was half Egyptian. Did the law apply to him? The man's descendants would, in the third generation, be eligible for full entry into covenant life, Deuteronomy 23, 7 and 8. Nothing is said about the father of this man, although we are given the name and family of the mother. It would appear that perhaps the father was not with Israel. Rabbinical scholars have given us an account of the father. They say that the father of the young man was the Egyptian slain by Moses, Exodus 2:2, that he was the taskmaster under whom the husband of Shelomith worked, and that Moses found him smiting the man whom he had injured and put him to shame. It is added that the quarrel in which the young man was engaged arose out of a claim set up by him to have his abode in the camp of the Danites, see Numbers 2:2, not being content to remain in the quarters appropriated to foreigners. This story is discounted by most Christian scholars, and it has no confirmation. However, much in history is without confirmation, and the rabbis were the best historians of antiquity. There was something unusual about this episode, and perhaps the rabbinic report gives us the background. In verse 14, we have the laying on of hands by the witnesses prior to the execution. The laying on of hands has varied meanings. It could mean ordination to God's service, Acts 6:6, a blessing, Genesis 48:14, a transfer of guilt, Leviticus 1:4, 4:3 and 4, healing, Mark 5:23, and more. Here, it apparently means that the witnesses testify to the man's sin, that his blood is upon his own head, and that there is no guilt in those who stone him to death, verse 15. Some rabbinic commentators have claimed that the guilty man's mother was the only woman in the camp with an illegitimate child. They see her character indicated in her name. She said, "Hello, shalom to all men," and she was a chatterbox, dabranit, punning on Dibri. Calvin quite realistically assumed that many young Israelite women married into the Egyptian nation in order to gain some protection for themselves and their families through their husbands. Moreover, the rabbis to the contrary, Shelomith's name means woman of peace. We are not given any specific data about the nature of the blasphemy because it is not necessary for us to know them. It was clearly a flagrant offence, and one that struck at the authority and majesty of the covenant Lord. Knight holds that it was a denial of God and his covenant, a declaration that belief in God, his covenants with Israel, and his providential care is nonsense. In some form, it was a contemptuous challenge and a denial of the authority of the covenant God. It is an incident which makes it clear that, if for any reason a stranger take up his abode within the circle of the divine government, he is amenable to the laws thereof. In some way, the blasphemer had denied that God had jurisdiction over him, and this may be the reason why Moses consulted God. The word blasphemy in the Hebrew is nakab, to curse, revile, puncture, or pierce. It means to seek to destroy. It is warfare against God and his covenant law. This tells us something about this man's offence. This incident is set in the midst of laws. It tells us that, even as the law was being given, this man was expressing his contempt for God and his law. The summons of the law is to holiness. The offence of this man was in some form a contempt for and an attack on the idea of holiness. Peake saw the blasphemy as a complete renunciation of any allegiance to or regard for the covenant Lord. The subject of blasphemy is a difficult one for modern man to understand. In antiquity, it was commonly punished by death in various cultures. In its most elemental and basic meaning, blasphemy is, properly, any species of calumny and detraction, but in Scripture is limited to God and to things sacred. It is a denial of the fundamental authority in all creation. Modern man sees himself as his own God and law, having developed the implications of the fall to their limits. Contempt for authority is more congenial to him than respect. Where respect for the authority of God and his word is gone, then soon all authority is eroded. Scripture declares blasphemy to be a very serious offence, because any society which begins by profaning God and his authority will soon profane all things. The alternative to authority is total terror by the power state. Where there is no authority, there is soon no justice, because men no longer speak the same moral language of law and authority. The respect for God's authority establishes communication and healthy dissent. The kind of dissent which thrives in an anarchic situation is the dissent of increasing evil, violence, and destruction. Godly dissent is constructive, not destructive, and its goal is justice and holiness. Otto Scott has called my attention to the fact that there is a strong humanistic doctrine of blasphemy in effect in our time. In several countries, it is illegal to make any reference to minority groups, which can be construed as derogatory, even if the comments are accurate. Thus, to cite the high rate of crime and violence among certain groups, even if the data be police statistics, is severely punished. Criticism of certain minorities is viewed as blasphemy,